just backtracking a little bit to something that I think I caught you in the middle of, is so when Reddit comes up with this proposal to roll out the moons within the subreddit, I assume that you moderators have your own private subreddit or your own private forum where you interact. So how does the process of Reddit itself coming up to you guys and telling that they want to implement this? How does this work? Do they just like tell you, okay, this is what's happening, or do they ask you for any feedback? How does it look like in practice?
So I believe they originally reached out to us through ModMail, just to be like, hey, we're interested in potentially pursuing this idea. There's some other different ideas that they've done with us in the past. We do seem to be a team that the Reddit employees like working with for implementing new Reddit features. And I can't speak to everything that they went through, but I can say that they were like, they came to us. They didn't force it on us. They said, hey, we're interested in potentially working with you on this. Is this something you also are interested in? On the moderator side of things, we do have our own separate subreddit that's private just for recording certain things. But at this point, we predominantly use Discord for communication. We have a separate moderator server. And we also do use that for inviting some other like influencers, project leads, other subreddit mods, those sorts of things in there too, with their own separate channels, just so we can stay in touch with them more easily also. But yeah, for this particular case, they did invite moderators for feedback. We were involved pretty early on, and my personal view is they did a pretty good job to make sure that we were in agreement with what they wanted to do, and we were on the same page, and we had some discussions to iron out. Well, so first of all, so we can understand what they wanted to do and why, and then also to make sure that like ahead of time, we were ironing out as many of the potential hiccups we saw ahead of time before they went wide with it and actually ran with the idea. But moons aren't actually the only thing they've done that with. They actually have it's not a betting market, and I'm sure that their legal team would very much say it's not a betting market, but they do have different like contests and things people can vote on. Like there's other things that they've rolled out in the subreddit too.
Like these prediction things, right?
Exactly. It's like a prediction where you say, well, what's going to happen? Like, for example, what's the price of Bitcoin going to be in 1 week, right? And people can like vote on it. And if they get the right answers, it's technically not moons. It's actually some other token, but then we somehow tie it in so that they're also, we launched it with the idea that like, if you do well in this prediction market, in this prediction set of votes, and you get the most prediction coins effectively, that whoever was on the top of the leaderboard would get moons and the like. So we do, have targeted ways where we try to encourage, people to start using features and to be interested and to engage. That's kind of the whole point of moons, really, is to help encourage engagement. And I think that just looking at the number of comments we have in the subreddit, for example, like we do. So, so that's a little bit of background of like how the Reddit admins came. And we do have ongoing discussion with them. They are like, I can just send them a message, for example, right now and be like, hey, what about this? Or point them to a comment. Hey, this user had this question. And they're pretty good at actually like responding, in my experience.
So we can, just a disclaimer there as well for you as for Reddit. Like, these are not prediction markets. They're more like a playful feature where people can just like get awarded with a couple tokens for saying that they think the price is gonna swing either way. And it's usually a multi-option thing. So it's not like people are making their own inputs, right? I think it's pretty interesting to see how well this thing rolled out and how well thought it was, because for something as new, albeit they had done it before with the donuts thing, as you pointed out, for something as new as this and in such a big community to roll out this smoothly, with the obvious caveat that there's going to be some fine-tuning along the way, I think the implementation rolled out pretty well. Do you have any experience with how it played out for the Minecraft thing?
So we've been in contact with the Minecraft mods from time to time. I don't think we've had a recent discussion with them they, I think we kind of ran into similar challenges where we're like, okay, well, how do we help users set up a vault? How do we help users understand that they need to have a strong password and two-factor authentication on their Reddit account, which may be worth several $1,000s at that point if they were very active and got a lot of coins, right? So we had similar discussions about how we actually inform users about those sorts of things. And we had a lot of similar questions to begin with, like, okay, what happens if, if we promote a post, for example, like, you can add the little sticky, the post at the top of the subreddit. Does that change things? And we just needed to have those questions answered, and obviously more and more have come up as we've come across more and more niche situations. So, I honestly haven't spoken to them in probably a few months now to see what's going on their end, but I would not be surprised if they've seen people engage more in general there as opposed to other similar gaming subreddits.
And ideally, if you're Reddit in this stance, and what you would want to see is that the two communities start off very closely tied and very closely related to sort of help them figure their way out of certain issues, and then eventually get split down into very separate communities to see as well how the same concept can roll out differently in two different communities, right?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. And I imagine that's one of the reasons why Reddit did go the way it did, right? Take a cryptocurrency that you're making on Ethereum, right? Start by launching it in a relatively niche-ish Ethereum focused subreddit that where the moderators are willing, then try, one part, a very broad cryptocurrency subreddit where people are open to the idea of cryptocurrencies generally, and then also a gaming subreddit that skews young and people are like interested to try new things. One thing I remember from when these, cryptocurrency moons and Fortnite BR bricks started, bricks actually got a faster initial adoption, I think I would say, where people were tipping it more to begin with. People were engaging with it more on the Fortnite BR side, actually, than they were on the cryptocurrency side for the first few months. But at this point, I think the majority of activity is still on cryptocurrency moons as opposed to any other tokens.
Do you think this can have something to do with the fact that people in the cryptocurrency space have a more monetized approach to these kind of things? Like they talk about trading, they talk about hodling, they talk about treating things as money, when they're in reality, like, some people would argue that they're not worth the money. Some people would argue that they are. I personally think that they are, and I think most of the crypto community sees the value in digital assets, even if they're quote unquote printed by a subreddit. And in the Minecraft community, they might see it as some token to play with, right? Although eventually it might evolve in the same direction as cryptocurrency, just as communities get more professional or get full of like moon farmers that are trying to optimize for certain outcomes. And that is something that I wanted to ask you. Yeah, do you see something like this eventually playing out in a Wall Street bets type of scenario where people are trying to pump the price of moons to the moon in order to make the most gains out of it?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's a speculative asset that's already in the hands of many Redditors. And although we take pride in the cryptocurrency subreddit very much not having the same culture as Wall Street bets, where everything is diamond hands there, I would not be surprised. At the moment, they don't really allow cryptocurrency discussion, but if they did, I imagine you would have people there pumping it. Like, it's just not, it would not surprise me at all.
That's a very interesting observation there, because you see subreddits, like Reddit in general has the same profile user, right? Like, in most people in Reddit are, and this is just by looking at the stats, not judging at the behavior of the people, for anyone that's going to call me things in the comments, but like, most people are nerdy, white, and American, and male in Reddit. That's just the top demographics that you see play out in there. And it's very interesting to see how communities that are quote unquote the same or are very similar to each other have very different behaviors within their respective subreddits. And you're right, like cryptocurrency behaves very differently than Wall Street bets, and it's funny to see that they with whereas in Wall Street bets you would see like a lot of different assets being discussed. In cryptocurrency, you would very easily pinpoint which one's the main one, right? Being Bitcoin. So it's fun to see that there has not been any attempts to have coordinated efforts to pump any one coin in there, particularly Bitcoin.
I'm sure that I think that, what, do they allow Dogecoin or something for like one day or something? Like the subreddit obviously went nuts for that day in that particular regard. So I think, I don't know, who knows what they're going to do. Back to your point though, about users having like different behaviors in certain subs. I think it's not even just the case that you have some users that are interested in certain things and participate in some subreddits and others in others. That is true where people who are into certain things will gravitate in certain subs as opposed to others. But even people, like, you have some people that are Redditors and they will show up and they expect for this specific subreddit they visit to be very professional and very on point and very factual and to the point, no nonsense around or anything. And then they'll hop over to another subreddit where they're just shit posting constantly, right? Like the whole point of that subreddit for them is this specific thing. So Reddit's, I guess that's the whole point of why different subreddits exist, is you can have different cultures about different things, but it's just interesting how certain users may put on, one hat in a certain room and then a completely different hat in a different room. So that plays out as well too, where you might have, I'm sure you do have quite a few Redditors that are in Wall Street bets, being all Wall Street betty, and then they show up in the cryptocurrency subreddit. And I don't know what they do there. Maybe they show nano or something. I don't know. That seems to be a common thing people do. So it's interesting how people have different hats sometimes.